All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another installment of our A Sailor's Life Live series at the USS Constitution Museum. My name is Emily. I'm an educator at the museum, and we are located in Boston, Massachusetts. And you can see a picture there in front of you. Normally when we're open, but now both online as well, we tell the story of America's ship of state, the USS Constitution, which is the world's oldest commissioned warship afloat. And because of that, she's still in our active duty US Navy. And today I have joining me a sailor from Constitution, and he's gonna be helping us out today with the program. So Yummy, you wanna take it away and introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. Hello, I'm Airman Sawaya. My first name is Yummy, but my military name is Airman Sawaya. I joined the U.S. Navy from New Orleans, Louisiana. Went through 2 months boot camp near Chicago at Great Lakes, and then I got offered to come to the oldest commissioned warship, USS Constitution.
Awesome. How do you like it so far?
So far, it's been quite an experience. I always tell people what better place to start than the beginning of the Navy.
Totally. You're like right at the start of our history, our Navy heritage there. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us. I guess I'm just going to kick it off to a question for you, Yummy. When you're on Constitution, what type of music or what type of songs motivate you and energize you to do your work?
So me personally, I'm one of those people who just love all kinds of music, all genres. So whether it's rock and roll, whether it's hip hop, whether it's R&B, soul, blues, or even jazz, a lot of it's very inspiring to me.
All right, so you're a well-rounded musical person. Awesome. Okay, well, I wanted to ask you that, and I want to throw that out to the folks in the chat today too, because we're going to be talking about music on board Constitution. And so I'm going to ask this question to you all as well. What type of music or songs motivate you and energize you to do a big project or get you hyped to tackle something really big? And the way you can answer that is at the bottom of your screen is going to be a chat button, and you can type your answers right in there, and everyone should be able to read what you guys write. And also, if at any time during the presentation you have a question, please feel free to use the Q&A button as well. All right, so hopefully folks are chiming in there with some music that gets them motivated. Rap, okay, shanties. Oh, we have a maritime person already in the mix. Hip hop, yep, okay, definitely. All right, someone said relaxing study music. So that's gonna put you in a different type of mood to get you motivated. Pop, dance music, great. All right, keep those coming and keep an eye on the chat. Because today, we're going to be talking, like I said, about music on USS Constitution. And music for us, it can motivate us, it can energize us, it can get us ready to tackle something, a big project. But as some of you also said, it can be relaxing. It can be something to calm us down during a hard time. I'm sure we've all been stuck at home for a while, and music has maybe helped a lot of us get through that and calm down. It can also just be used for fun, right? You can put on a dance song and go wild out to that dance song. And so music serves a lot of different purposes for us, just like it did on USS Constitution during the War of 1812. And so music, when I talk about music today, we aren't necessarily talking about songs with lyrics, but there were definitely a lot of different instruments used on Constitution, some songs, as we'll talk about. And this music was used to motivate the sailors, to keep order, to communicate, and also sometimes just for fun. So we're gonna talk about that today. And so to start, we're gonna discuss 2 instruments that every Navy ship would have had during the War of 1812. The first being a fife. Here you have that in front of you in our collection. This is a fife made in 1810 by a woodworker in Boston whose job it was to provide fifes for Navy ships. And the fife is something you blow into. You play it like this. I can't play the fife, but I'm giving you a quick demonstration. You would play it like this. So that was one instrument that the Constitution had. Another one I want you to find in this photograph. Hopefully you're looking for that picture there, or that instrument, and you are finding a drum, hopefully. And that drum was something else used on Constitution for a variety of reasons. Now, these two instruments were played by a certain group of folks on the ship, and those were the Marines. The Marines were a group of 55 men who were stationed on Constitution. They were the ship's security force. They kept order. They kept the captain protected, but they also fought in battle as well. And so two of those Marines were the fifer and the drummer. And that was by law. When the Navy created the 6 original ships, including Constitution in 1794, the Navy said, you need a fifer on the ship and you need a drummer. And so two of the folks in these Marines, they were often wearing red. They had a red uniform to make them stand out from the other Marines. And they had an important job on the ship. So let's talk about what they did. One job that the Marine musicians did on Constitution was to call the ship's crew to battle stations, or what we say to quarters. Meaning if you're laying around, well, you weren't laying around on a ship, but if you were doing something and then an enemy ship was sighted and the captain decided you were going to engage that ship and go into battle, the Marines would play a piece of music that would let everybody know to get up, stop what they're doing, and go to their battle station. So here's what that sounds like. So if you heard that, you were getting up, you were going to your gun, you were going up to the sails and getting ready to fight. What do you guys think of that song? That's called Two Arms. And that was definitely the song that people were using, the Marines were playing back then. To me, it sounds very chipper and happy. Hey, we're going to battle. When reality, the battle was a very messy and scary affair. So I think that's an interesting choice of music to get people hype and to get people motivated with this kind of happy, chipper song to lead them to battle. So that was one way you would hear the fife and the drum. Another way you would hear the drum in particular on Constitution was for a daily ritual that happened twice a day, which was getting your grog ration. So, Yummy, can you give us a sense of, or tell us about what getting your grog ration was on the ship?
Yes, of course. So the grog tub, as many know, is some of the sailors' favorite spot on the entire ship. And what grog is, it's a mixture of water, citrus, rum, and whiskey. So basically, they're alcohol, and they would get their daily servings of alcohol here about twice a day. And, you know, sailors, it's a thing, it's a cliche about sailors that we love to drink. So this is pretty good for a lot of those crew members back in the day.
All right. And so that's the tub right there, just in amongst the guns, huh? On the ship there?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. All right, thanks for showing us that. So yeah, as Yummy said, this happened twice a day. It was something probably the sailors looked forward to, but they needed to keep some order. If you had 450 sailors lining up to get their grog ration, you needed some way to organize that. And so you see in this illustration, the Marine drummer is standing by the grog tub, and most likely he's beating the drum as a way to let the next sailor know it's his turn to drink, and when he's done, he would beat the next person in to drink as well. So that was another use of a Marine drummer on the ship. Another use of the Marine fife in particular was when sailors had to do a chore, which was turning the capstan of the ship. Now, the capstan was a job that sailors would do to haul up the anchor of USS Constitution. So, Yummy, can you show us what that looks like?
Yes, of course. So right here, this is where the capstan is. Right now, because of winter preservation, we have the capstan covered up. But basically, the capstan would, in easy terms to explain, the capstan would have basically wooden logs lodged into the sides of her. And you'd have many men walking around the capstan, basically raising or lowering that anchor chain.
Okay, and did Constitution just have one anchor, or there more than one capstan?
We actually had many anchors. We had bower anchors, kedging anchors, we had sheet anchors, for like shallow waters, and we also had was stream anchors.
Oh, wow.
For when you're going up streams.
Okay, so you have a sense that was that a difficult job to turn that capstan?
Most definitely, you definitely needed a lot of men to get around. Some of those anchors weigh up to 700 pounds, so you needed a lot of men to work.
Okay, good to know. Yeah, so if you had, this was a hard task, and you needed a lot of men to do it, and they had to be in rhythm, okay? So as you see from this illustration, one way to keep the men in rhythm walking around that capstan was to have the fifer sit on top and play a tune that keeps them in rhythm. And so you're probably thinking, wow, this fifer has a pretty good job. He gets to sit and play on top of the capstan while the rest of the men have to do the hard work. But I will say, not every fifer in the Marines liked his job. This is an advertisement from 1798 in a Philadelphia newspaper that is asking for a $10 reward to find David Looper, who was a fifer in the Marines who deserted, meaning he left the Marines without telling anyone. Before his contract was done, he disappeared. And so it describes David Looper, but it says at the end, he may be discovered by his fifing as he plays extremely well. So note for self, if you don't want to be found out, don't be playing your fife around town while you're trying to escape the Marines, okay? Awesome. All right, so that was a look at the fife and drum, which were two instruments used on Constitution. Another small instrument that was used often is called the bosun's pipe, which you see here. And we call it a pipe. You may see it more as a whistle, but it's played on the ship. And this is not music at all. This was not meant to play music that you listen to and relax to. The point of a bosun's pipe was to deliver calls and commands so the sailors would know what they were supposed to do. And we have on the ship today, Jacqueline, who is a bosun's mate in the US Navy, and she's gonna give us a demo.
Hello everyone, I'm bosun mate second class Jacqueline Ditzel. Thank you, Emily. This is my bosun pipe. As you can see, there's 4 parts to a bosun pipe. You have the bowl, which is the actual bowl, the tip point at the beginning of it, which is called the wind edge. The long stem is known as a reed, and then the mouthpiece, of course, is just called a mouthpiece. So there's 4 different positions to making calls with your bosun pipe. You have an open position, which is sort of like this. You have a closed position, which is completely closed. This is how you end a call. You have a curved position, and then you have a clinch position. So your open notes will make all of the low notes, and then your clinch notes are going to make all of the high-pitched notes. So here I am. I'm going to show you guys about 3 calls about how we make, and then I'm going to explain each one of them. So right there, that's called attention. So that's used over any 1MC or any way to get attention for the sailors for just passing daily words over the announcements. As you can see, it was made of an open note and then a clinch note. So it was 1 low note and then 1 high note. So right there, that's called all hands. That's also used at 0600. That's how everybody woke up to reveille. It was made of an open note, so low note, clinch note, and then it'll be a low note and a clinch note, and then it fades away. So that's used for if the commanding officer wanted to speak to anybody or for any all hands evolutions throughout the ship. Right there, that's called over the side. So that's used for more of a dignitary and ceremonies. If any high-ranking officers will be coming on board, once they enter through the quarterdeck, the bosun will play that tune. That's when everybody would salute him until he gets his way on board the ship. So that's just made up like a low note, clinch note, low note, and then clinch note.
And so the sailors were trained to know what call was what, obviously.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And is was the pipe something that took you a long time to learn in the Navy?
It took me about 2 weeks to learn all of the calls. Once you just start hearing them, you're able to make the tunes in your head. So then once you get your own pipe, you have to tune it down, you have to file down the wind edge, maybe add some beeswax or solder it. So once you get the perfect tune, all the tunes are in your head, and you just have to find out the perfect hand motions.
Okay, I gotcha. And is it still, you've been on other ships in the Navy, right? Is it still used on other ships?
Oh yes, it's used up very much. Of course, if there's any aircraft operations or flight operations, you don't use this type of announcements over the 1MC, but any other time, all words passed with a whistle.
Okay, that's very, I think I get a thrill like seeing how these Navy things from 1812 or even earlier continue through today. So that's very cool. Thank you for showing us that. What's the fancy rope you have attached to your pipe?
So this is my lanyard. So we wear these in all of our dress uniforms or regular uniforms, which pretty much attaches to our bosun pipe. That way we can put it in our pockets, so that way we don't lose them.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Jacqueline. Really cool to hear that. Thank you. Awesome. Well, yeah, so that's an awesome treat to hear Jacqueline play the pipe. And obviously these were calls that the sailors knew and communicated something to them that they needed to do, like get at attention, get up out of bed, or things like that. There's a dignitary coming on board. So effective tool on the ship for communication. So let's look at another instrument that would be found on the ship or was related to the ship. And it's a trumpet. Aha, but this is not the trumpet that I'm talking about. We have seen this trumpet before if you followed our other programs. This is a speaking trumpet. So this is not an instrument. This was simply something you could use to amplify your voice, okay? So in a battle, you see the lieutenant here is using a speaking trumpet to communicate orders. He's not playing a tune that everyone can jam out to. He's communicating orders and amplifying his voice. But there is a trumpet associated with USS Constitution that is very special in the world of music history, and that is this trumpet. This is called a permutation trumpet, and it was invented by Nathan Adams in 1825. Now take a look at that. It's a little kind of a funky looking instrument. Now Nathan Adams was the bandmaster on USS Constitution in the 1820s. And he invented this trumpet. He was one of the first Americans, or the first American, to invent a brass instrument with valves. And the valves are the things that control the airflow through this trumpet. Now, I'm not an instrument historian. I don't know a ton about how trumpets work, but I can tell you this trumpet is special. It's the only one that exists. It is the grandfather to all the other trumpets that followed it. And because of that, this item, out of all the objects in our museum's collection, this trumpet is the most requested to be studied and researched. So that's our permutation trumpet. Nathan Adams, as I said, was the bandmaster on Constitution in the 1820s. At that point, Constitution was done with the War of 1812. She was sailing around the Mediterranean, and she was stopping in various ports. Here she is in a painting in Minorca, an island off of Spain. And at her port stops, her crew and officers were meeting dignitaries and politicians. And because of that, it was important to have a band that could play music to kind of show America's pride and naval force. And so during this time, there were musicians on Constitution who were playing live band music. And so I wanted to ask, Yummy, if you guys, on the trumpet issue here, did you guys bring the bugle?
Yes, we did.
Cool. Can you tell us about this other instrument that looks like a trumpet?
It's seen a lot in military movies. What the bugle is actually for, mainly we use it at 2-minute taps. It will be played at the end of the day when sunset is happening. And will also be played for morning colors, for reveille. So really just depending on what the event is or what's happening, ceremony maybe, you would use a bugle to actually do a lot of different songs.
Okay. And so you guys use it how on Constitution?
So what this is used most for here in the USS Constitution we'll play taps for funerals, and that's really mainly it. At most, veteran funerals will have 2 people go there in their dress uniforms to give ceremonial honors to whoever passed. And during all the, like in the middle of the funeral, you actually have someone play the bugle to play taps to render that honor to someone who's fallen for us.
Okay, right. So that's part of your duty serving on Constitution, is to go to these funerals and
Yes.
give honors. Okay, good to know. Well, thank you for showing us the bugle.
Of course.
I don't know. It looks a little less complicated than the trumpet, so that's good. All right. So we've had fife, we've had drum, we've had pipe, trumpet. Trumpet is something you can actually still play in the Navy, because you can now in the Navy join as a musician. And here's a photograph of one of the Navy bands. And so starting with Nathan Adams, really around 1825, when the ship was out in the Mediterranean, that was around the time that the musician rate became official in the Navy, meaning you could join the Navy as a musician. And so part of that is your job is to play concerts. I'm going to play you a piece from our Navy band here, Anchors Aweigh. Awesome. All right, so that's Anchors Aweigh. That is a classic Navy song. And hopefully while you listen to that, you found the trumpet in this photograph. So yes, you can join the Navy as a musician even today. If you join, this is the rate, the symbol that you get on your uniform. There's about 600 musicians in the Navy currently. And part of your training is you go to the Armed Forces School of Music in Virginia for 21 weeks. And you learn your craft, you learn your instrument, and you learn how to represent the Navy in these many concerts and performances. And the Navy has a lot of different kind of bands. There's the ceremonial bands, like you just heard. There are smaller bands, quintet. There's even a sea shanty group of Navy singers. And there's also a rock band. And so here's a group called Rhode Island Sound. They're part of U.S. Navy Band Northeast, based in Newport, Rhode Island. And this is their performance in Times Square. So that was Confident by Demi Lovato. So a pop song the Navy is even playing. So we've come a long way from the fife and drum in the Navy here today. So hopefully you enjoyed that song. And of course, we can't forget, speaking of fife and drums, we can't forget our Marine Corps, who were the original fifers and drummers on USS Constitution. You can also join the Marine Corps today as a musician in their band. And here's our Marine Corps band with their hymn. rousing rendition of the Marine Corps hymn, which has to do with Constitution. The Shores of Tripoli is one of the lyrics, and that was USS Constitution's Marine group hitting the shores of Tripoli in the late 1700s as part of the Barbary Wars. So I have to say though, Marine Corps band gets the way cooler uniform over the Navy. This is their band leader. He or she gets to wear a bearskin hat and carry a ceremonial mace. So way cool there. All right. So we have talked about a lot of different instruments that were on board Constitution: the fife, the drum, a bugle, a trumpet, the pipe. And I want to focus now on one more piece of music that you would have heard, which is singing. Okay, our voice, that's definitely an instrument. And a lot of people associate the era of Constitution and pirates with sea shanties. Okay, songs that sound like this.
Way hey, up she rises, way hey, up she rises, way hey, up she rises, early in the morning. What will we do with the drunken sailor? What will we do with the drunken sailor? What will we do with the drunken sailor? Early in the morning.
All right. That was a song, Drunken Sailor. I used to play Assassin's Creed Black Flag. That's full of shanties. So sea shanties has become very popular in terms of associated with sailors and pirates. But here's the thing. On USS Constitution, sailors were not allowed to sing these types of songs while they were working. Because on USS Constitution, silence in the performance of all duties is the first principle of discipline and is to be enforced at all times. So we talked about this a couple weeks ago with talking about sailor chores. You can't sing or talk or listen to music, your own music, while you're working because it was bad for discipline. So that was something that I didn't know when I started at Constitution, that there were really no sea shanties on a US Navy ship. They were on whaling ships or merchant ships, but not in the Navy. But of course, the men were allowed to sing at night on their own time, and that's certainly something they did. It was a way that they brought themselves together. It was a way to relax, just as music in our day can help us do the same thing. So they might have sat around down below and sang a song like this, Heart of Oak. This was a popular song at the time, written by the British. The Americans changed the words, but kept the chorus the same.
Heart of oak are our ships, heart of oak are our men. We always are ready, steady boys, steady. We'll fight and we'll conquer again and again.
Ah, very patriotic song, Heart of Oak. Our ships are made of oak, our hearts are with our ships. We will fight and we will conquer. And so that was a popular song at the time. You might have heard down below on Constitution. You also had songs that were written about Constitution, not necessarily sung on the ship, but were sung on land by people about the ship. And that's often had to do with after a battle. The Constitution's first battle that she won was with the HMS Guerriere, a British ship. And at the time, the way to spread the news about the battle was to write a song about it. We didn't have newscasters, we didn't have radio, we didn't have internet. So the thing you could do is you could write up a song on a piece of paper, stick it around town, and people would be able to sing it and spread the news about Constitution's victory. So Yummy, can you just give us a quick summary of what this battle was and why it was important?
Yes, of course. So during the, right after the Great Escape during the War of 1812, we came back to Boston, and when we got back over here, you know, the men, or the captain especially, he wanted to go back out and make a name for himself. After the Great Escape, a lot of the crew members, they were kind of down because they didn't, you know, get to fight like they wanted to, like they trained for. So after about a month after the Great Escape, we went back into the Atlantic, you know, looking for any of those ships that were chasing us during the Great Escape. We had news that there were some ships, you know, seen north up by Canada in Halifax. So we sailed north, you know, looking every day on the horizon, trying to see if there's any of those ships that chased us down. And one day, we actually did see a ship on the horizon. And we saw the ship. It was built a lot like ours. So we, you know, assumed it was a frigate. We got kind of closer, and we, you know, we started seeing more details. We started seeing it had a lot of guns. And the closer we got, the more we became sure that it was another British ship. Though it could have been any ship. It could have been, you know, a merchant vessel. It could be a British vessel. It could be an American vessel. So what we did is we raised our ensign to let them know who we were as Americans. And almost immediately, they did the same, raising Union Jacks. And when they raised these Union Jacks, we knew they were British. We knew it was time to do battle. And almost immediately, shots started being shot from the Guerriere, from the Constitution. But, you know, we wanted to get a little bit closer to give them deliver like a really good blow so we can, you know, do as much damage as we could possibly do. So we sailed kind of close to them, and about 25 yards away, that's when Captain Isaac Cole finally gave the order to fire. We had a rolling broadside that shot down one by one each gun all the way down the decks. And then with that one rolling broadside, we knocked down their mizzen mast, the very back mast on the, you know, the aft of the ship. And we hit that and fell over, and it didn't, you know, render them completely useless. They still had a little bit of maneuverability, but not as much as they needed to get away from us. So the Constitution tried to take this chance to do a crossing the T sailing technique, where you would get in front of the ship and you would try to shoot down the front or the backs of these ships, because those are essentially the softest parts. We tried this, and when we got in front of the Guerriere, they actually, you know, crashed into the back of us, tangling these two ships, causing a lot of chaos and commotion. And within all this chaos and commotion, you had a Marine. His name was William S. Bush. He was actually the captain of all the Marines on the ship. And he wanted to go lead his Marines and board the Guerriere while we were attached to them and try to, you know, take control of their ship and, you know, win the battle, get a victory. He tried this. He stepped up on the taffrail on the deck above me, and he asked, "Captain Isaac Cole, shall I board her, sir?" And before he could lead his men, lead his Marines into battle, he was fatally wounded. He was shot in the cheek, and he actually fell to the decks. And a testament to the bravery of the crew here, a sailor, right after him seeing this, tried to step up and do the same thing, but he was shot in the stomach. Captain Isaac Cole, seeing all his men being, you know, losing their lives and trying to see how much fight the Guerriere has, he ordered that we need to cut away from the Guerriere and just get away from them. You know, boarding their ship was going to take too much of his men. So that's what we did. We began cutting a lot of the lines that were tangled with the Guerriere, and doing this, we split away from them. But when we split away from them, we actually pulled down their foremast. So the Guerriere foremast falls with Constitution after we pull it down. And the thing that people don't know about all these masts that hold all the sails, they're actually all intertwined with each other. So they support each other. So if you lose two, the third one is bound to fall. And that's exactly what happened. The main mast fell. And once that fell, the Guerriere basically could not move. They could not sail. They couldn't maneuver. They couldn't do anything that they wanted to do to get away from us. So they shot a leeward shot to basically say that they surrendered, because they had nowhere that they could raise any white flags to give up. And then after that, the Constitution went up close to the Guerriere. We boarded their ship after the men had surrendered. We took on all the men from the Guerriere, basically just telling them come on the ship respectfully. And, you know, Constitution didn't take prisoners, but we don't have a brig or anything like that. But back then it was more, I'd say, like a gentleman's war, where you would have men who would just become understandable that they've lost, and they would come on the ship and they would just, you know, give their rights up as sailors from, you know, a different navy. And so we brought them all on, brought all the supplies that we could salvage. We went on their ship. We sent boarding parties, some of the Marines, and we actually went into their aft magazine. The aft magazine is where you would store anything explosive, you know, gunpowder, bombs, things like that. And we went in there and we lit it ablaze, setting the whole ship ablaze, and basically sinking her to Davy Jones' locker, as we like to say.
Yeah, actually, can you explain what that is, Davy Jones' locker? Because that's going to be in our song in a second.
So Davy Jones' locker, it's kind of this thing, you see it in movies, you hear it in, like, you know, from SpongeBob to Pirates of the Caribbean. It's basically just, I don't know exactly like what Davy Jones' locker is, but we just see it as the bottom of the sea, bottom of the ocean, the deepest, darkest depths of the ocean.
Okay, so Constitution sent HMS Guerriere to Davy Jones' locker. Done.
Exactly.
A thrilling win. Okay, thanks, Yummy. That was a great description of the battle. Now, are you ready to sing with us in a sec? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so Yummy just described this battle. This was Constitution's first win. Huge victory for the United States. And so people created songs and news about this. And so this broadside, as we call it, that you see here, that is in our museum's collection, is a song about the battle with Guerriere. And what was interesting about these songs is that they had to pick a tune that everybody knew at the time. That way people could easily sing the song and spread the news about this victory. So we're gonna have a sing-along to end our presentation today. No one is watching you. I can't hear you. No one can hear you. Sing to your fullest extent. And it's to the tune of Yankee Doodle Dandy. And we'll start with the first two verses of this song from 1812. Come jolly lads, ye hearts of gold, come fill your cans and glasses, be fun the order of the day, a health to all our lasses. Yankee Doodle, keep it up, Yankee Doodle Dandy. As hot as British folks can sup, we'll give it to 'em handy. The Constitution long shall be the glory of our Navy, for when she grapples with the foe, she sends 'em to old Davy. Yankee Doodle, keep it up, Yankee Doodle Dandy. We'll let the British know that we at fighting are quite handy. Woo, okay, the song goes on, but hopefully you got to sing a little bit our patriotic song about USS Constitution battle. So with that, we are gonna wrap up. Let me see if I have a little bit of questions here for me or Yummy. Okay, did musicians on board have other duties too? I am not sure. Yummy, do you know? I think you
Again, please.
Do you know if musicians on board in the Marines had other duties as well besides being a musician?
So all the Marines on board, whether they served as musicians, they would also have to work as snipers, boarding parties, and even sometimes they'd have to storm beaches. I know during the bombardment of Tripoli, we actually had Marines go onto the shores and, rush the city. So they had multiple different jobs, but mainly on the ship, it was, keeping good order and maintaining discipline.
Gotcha. All right, thank you. And we also have a question, besides music for entertainment, sitting around singing, did they have books, TV, or did they put on acting shows? They definitely did other things besides sing. No TV, possibly books. Yeah, they told stories, may have entertained each other with cards or games as well. Yummy, how is music still used on Constitution today?
So today, with music, we played the national anthem, of course. We played taps at funerals. Personally, sometimes when we're doing like cleanup for the ship, some of the sailors will put on some music. We'll sing while we're shining brass or sweeping the decks. We use it mainly to get through some time, pastime, but that's about it.
All right, so you're allowed to put on your iPhone and jam out to music now while you work.
Yes.
That has changed since 1812. Okay, good to know. All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for joining us. Yummy, any final words for our participants?
Nothing much. Just remember, her side's made of iron. That's
right, old iron sides. I'm so glad you were able to show us off to her today. Thank you to Jacqueline again for her Bosun calls.
Thank you, Emily.
Yes, appreciate that really a lot. And I hope you all at home are inspired to go home, do some singing, do some jamming on whatever instrument you play, and enjoy the rest of this beautiful June day. So thank you all very much. Bye.